flood.
How far back?
About 4,000 years.
Israel is in the Middle East. It's a meeting place of three continents: Europe, Asia, and Africa. Israel has neighbors on three sides: Lebanon and Syria to the north, Egypt to the south, and Jordan to the east. So what's to the west? A big blue sea. The Mediterranean Sea, that is. Great for swimming, surfing, and sunbathing. Israel is a small country. You can get in a car and drive from one end to the other in 9 hours, even if you stick to the speed limit. The width of the country is even smaller. It's only 50 miles from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. In fact, a jet plane can cross this distance in about 6 minutes.
The beautiful mountains, you have beach and desert all within that radius right there. Beautiful women everywhere you go. Food's incredible. Travel's great.
Israel is smaller than 41 U.S. states. Packed into this little space is every climate you can think of. And because it's so small, you can experience them all in a single day.
We would go visit different mountains, climb through the mountains, and then later on in the night, we would walk on the beach and just hang out and have fun.
Snow-covered mountaintops in the north, a hot, dry desert in the south, green fields in the center, and miles of sandy beaches on the Mediterranean Sea. You can snorkel and scuba dive among the corals in Eilat anytime. It's always warm there, and it almost never rains. If you like fresh water, there's the Sea of Galilee. It's more like a lake than a sea, but it's Israel's main source of drinking water. And like everything else in Israel, it's filled with history and religion. Jesus preached to his disciples here. What if you can't swim? Well, everyone can swim in the Dead Sea. You don't have any choice. The water is so heavy, you can't sink even if you wanted to. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth, 1,300 feet below sea level. Down so low, the water has nowhere to go. So it simply evaporates, leaving lots of salt and minerals. That's why you float. The Dead Sea is part of something that geologists call the Syrian-African Rift. The good thing about Israel's weather is it's easy to plan. There are 2 seasons, rainy and dry. The summer dry season lasts from April to October. Non-stop sunshine during the day, starlight at night. And in Eilat, in the south, it almost never rains at all. 100 years ago, Israel was mostly swamps and desert. Jewish pioneers drained the swamps and planted trees, thousands and thousands of trees. Almost all the trees you see in Israel today were planted in the last century. Maybe even wilder is how Israel has made the desert bloom, using techniques they developed on their own, which are now exported all over the world. More than 1 million Israelis live in and around Tel Aviv on the Mediterranean coast. 2/3 of Israel's people live near the sea. Tel Aviv is known as the city that never stops. There's always something going on. There's McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Tower Records, and even the Hard Rock Cafe. On weekends, the main street is closed to traffic and turned into a happening, an outdoor mall that attracts young people from all over the country. And of course, there's also the beach, lined with cafes and restaurants.
The beach, by far, the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, that is the most beautiful place I've ever been to. Definitely.
Haifa is Israel's biggest port city. Haifa looks a lot like San Francisco. Hills rising up behind the port, houses hanging over the edge. Haifa's a great city to explore on foot. One popular route takes you by the world center of the Baha'i Faith, a small religious group that decades ago built an enormous temple and gardens in the city. Jerusalem is located high up in the hills, in the center of the country. Jerusalem, the Israeli capital, was first founded by King David some 3,000 years ago, and ever since has been the center of the Jewish world. Jerusalem is also holy to Christians and Muslims. Religious leaders and followers are everywhere. So are non-religious people. Jerusalem is a unique mixture of past and present. There's nothing like it in the world.
You will see Muslims, you will see like Jews, you see Christians, and they were like the architecture and everything was so together.
Jerusalem is 3,000 years old, but the walls going around it are young in comparison, just 2,000 years old. That's nearly 10 times older than the United States. Way back then, there was a majestic Jewish temple that dominated the old city, but it was destroyed by the Romans. All that the Romans left standing was a single wall, the Western Wall, the holiest site in the world for Jews today. Where the Jewish temple itself used to stand, the Muslims built two mosques, Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. Muslims believe their prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven from this spot. And not far away, there's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built over the spot where many Christians believe Jesus was buried and resurrected.
When I was there, I had such a spiritual feeling about me, I was just overwhelmed.
I didn't even know the history behind the wall when I first went, but when I went there, I was like so moved by it, and everything going on around it, it made me cry.
The Bible says Abraham was the first Jew. 4,000 years ago, following God's instructions, he walked to Canaan, now Israel, from the city of Ur, in what is now Iraq. He hiked all the way to Canaan because God promised he'd make a home for the Jewish people in Israel.
That hill over there, it's mentioned in the Bible several times. So I'm like, the Bible, that's like just outrageous.
Many powers have ruled this land over the centuries, like the Babylonians, Greeks, Romans, Muslims, Crusaders, Ottomans, and British. And while many Jews were often forced to flee to other lands, they never forgot their ties to the land of Israel.